I'll just say my statement speaks for itself.
The allegations in the Globe story this morning are false.
We made history today.
I experienced a consistent and sustained effort by many people within the government to seek to politically interfere.
I called on Justin Trudeau to resign.
I am going to run in the federal election as an independent candidate.
Alberta is open for business.
By far the most seats ever won by a Green Party in Canada.
The only thing better than today in Manitoba is going to be tomorrow in Manitoba.
You can't address the climate emergency without taking it seriously.
Darkening your face, regardless of the context or the circumstances, is always unacceptable.
Anytime we hear examples of brown face or black facing, it's really it's making a mockery of someone for what they live.
Let us all work hard to bring our country together.
I will be resigning as the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada.
So pretty easy to forget all that happened in a year. That would explain why I'm looking forward to a holiday. And with a minority government in power, 2 leadership races in 2020, the Greens too, don't forget them, you have a lot of questions about what's to come. So tonight, At Issue is here to answer some of them. Everyone here with me in Toronto, Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, Althea Raj. Okay, let's get to the first question. Susan King asked this one. How long will the Conservative leadership race be? Will they have a new leader by this June, or will it take most of next year with a vote in October or later?
If they can find a hall, I think they should try to get it done by summer, give the leader the summer to get organized. It's a minority government. There is no reason why the party can't have a real debate over the course of 4 months. And it's not a talent show where you're going to discover the star of 2030.
You would need to not have 13 candidates like the last time.
That would be nice, but then what can you do when people have mirrors that don't seem to function properly?
Yeah, I mean, it would help if they set the rules such that you have to show some evidence of support before you can get in.
Or set the bar high for
That's what
entry.
I mean, yeah. My impression is, I don't know, but my impression is the consensus in the party is to get it over with sooner rather than later. They're going to have a convention in April anyway. It would make sense to target that.
Or to delay the April convention to June, because April is a very short period of time, especially considering that the rules, as we record this, have not been set or communicated. And you still need to give people a chance to sell memberships, because that's traditionally the way you can actually win.
It's a really bad way of choosing a leader.
So I don't think we're going to see a leadership race that lasts 18 months or a year or even a vote into the late fall. But I would be surprised if we see it in April. I think if we see it in April, there will be concerns and allegations from the membership that the organizers were trying to cook the contest for somebody.
The way there is in every leadership.
Okay, next question, this time around about another possible leadership race. Here's Brianne.
Hi, my question for the At Issue panel is, do you think there will be another NDP leadership race in the near future?
Thank you, Brianne. I thought it was going to be about the Green Party. I was wrong. What do you think, Althea?
Well, there could be, but I don't suspect it will happen in this calendar year. They are supposed to have, the NDP is supposed to have a convention in 2020. At this point, I don't know where or when that convention is going to take place, but there would be a leadership review vote, as there's scheduled to be. And then I just don't see, he won with overwhelming support on a first ballot. So it's not the same thing. He wasn't like a coalition candidate like Mr. Scheer was. There are definitely people, especially on the Quebec side of the party, who were very disappointed and who feel like Mr. Singh dancing on election night was like dancing on people's graves. He did lose 20 seats. He's one person left in Quebec, that it was really tone deaf of him. And there's definitely a movement in the party to get rid of him, but I don't see that happening imminently.
But it was objectively a terrible result for the party. He is the same leader who was such a stumblebum before the election. He had one good week during the election, but basically saved their bacon. I could imagine people in the party saying, are we actually going to make any headway with this guy's leader, or should we be thinking elsewhere? But
I don't feel it, though. I don't see it. I don't feel it. Not right now, anyway.
But that is not a good sign. It's not a sign of a healthy party.
It's exhaustion.
You would have such a terrible result, wiped out in Atlantic Canada, one seat in Quebec, wiped out of the GTA, and you would walk around as if you'd actually done something. This has set the party back to when Alexa McDonough took it on. And I'm not sure that there's even an effort to think about how you come back from this. It sounds like Mr. Singh sounds like he still thinks that he won a big victory.
Oh, no, totally. I mean,
but they feel like he won. Like he won like Jack Harris's seat in Newfoundland.
Jack Harris won his seat in Newfoundland.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. But what the scenarios that they were thinking of, this is a good, not so bad case scenario.
No, but you can't be in a minority government walking around like not so bad is giving you all this power.
Well, maybe they're just going back to what the traditional NDP role was. Like one of the problems with Thomas Mulcair's 2015 campaign was that New Democrats were really upset that they ran a campaign that was like a liberal campaign.
Too centrist, yeah.
They were upset that they had betrayed their values and gotten outdone on like that should have been their campaigin. But you don't sense that. They're like happy.
Exactly. Last comment. By falling to fourth place.
Well, you should ask them that.
And being an echo of the Bloc Québécois. I look at Alexandre Boulris, the only MP left in Quebec. He started off in the official opposition. Then he was in the second opposition. Now he's in the third opposition, and one calls that progress and going back to one's roots. Yes, like going back to your grave.
He hasn't quit, though. Okay, we got lots more questions about climate change and climate plans.
Hi, my question for the At Issue panel is around the climate crisis and the role that the Green Party might possibly play, especially in light of Elizabeth May stepping away from the leadership position.
I don't know where Kate is, but it's beautiful. What do you think? Does the Green Party have any ability to influence anything here?
At present, no. I mean, there are only a few seats, and the Liberals can get the support of any one of two or three other parties and still govern. It's going to be interesting to see, as it is with the Conservatives, with their leadership race, where the Greens go. You know, Elizabeth May became kind of absorbed the party almost, became the Elizabeth May party. And under them, frankly, from my perspective, became a much less interesting party. They used to be quite a heterodox, unpredictable ideological mix. She basically just took them to the left of the NDP and left them there. And in the end, didn't actually advance their cause very well in this election. They won the 3 seats, but they were back in the popular vote to where they were, I think it was 2008. So that'll be interesting to see is what is the Green Party, especially when the Liberals have sort of taken so much of their clothing on this issue. What is the Green Party in 2019, 2020?
Now that climate change has strong legs in the ballot box, the main parties, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the Conservatives move in that direction, are restarting to own the issue. And that's not good news for the Green Party. No. Because at this point, for as long as it was kind of an important issue, but not the issue that actually drives votes, they owned it. But I think after this election, this was a crucial election for the Green Party, if not for climate, and they missed that turn to become a stronger voice going forward. I don't think the main parties are going to let climate change become again the issue of a third party.
Well, it seemed like Elizabeth May attracted attention for these very lofty goals, but the Liberals did a pretty good job of saying, but are they doable? And people chose doable rather than, you know.
Well, I think people chose Liberal because they didn't want Conservative, frankly. And you had Andrew Scheer saying he was going to have a majority government.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, the question was about the policy.
Yeah.
And I think Green Party members care more about the policy than they care about the electoral successes of their party. And for them, losing Elizabeth May, because she's immensely popular within many sectors in the Green Party, means that you're losing that very strong voice who was the voice of accountability. She was the one holding press conferences, holding the Liberals' feet to the fire on this issue. I do think Janica Atwin, for example, the MP in New Brunswick, has the potential of replacing Elizabeth May as that voice. But as Andrew said, they have 3 seats. They can't change the discussion. And as Chantal rightly pointed out, other parties are taking the mantle and running with it.
Okay, we're going to do one more quick one on climate. Here's Evan.
My question for the At Issue panel is, with climate change being a major issue, how will the Conservative Party of Canada balance climate action with the interests of Western Canadian voters?
Okay, I think I only have a minute, but that's sort of what we're talking about. How do they get to a place where they're...
It's a very good question, and I think the answer is they're going to have to be prepared to spend some of the capital they've got in Western Canada. They own Western Canada. They've owned it since the 1950s. They're racking up 80% majorities in Alberta. They can afford, frankly, to lose a few votes in Alberta by being a little less pure on this issue and finding some way to straddle and reach out to voters in central Canada who are more concerned about this issue.
That's going to be very tricky.
But they don't have a choice because long after Justin Trudeau will be gone, climate change will be a live and major issue. It's not going away. Right. It's not a fad that's going to just pass. So, and Alberta itself is going to have to come to terms with that reality, which is not driven by a federal government in Ottawa or a Quebec government that doesn't like pipeline, but by a global reality. The world is taking steps that are not conducive to the status quo in the prairies.
What do you think, Althea?
I agree with Andrew. I think that there are some people who feel very strongly about this issue, and the only party they would have to go to is Max Bernier's party that's like in a coma. Many Westerners want to see the Conservative Party win. And even if they don't actually even themselves believe that humans cause climate change, they will be willing to take actions because they feel that the electorate that they're chasing believes that it does, and they need to show something to address it. I also think that there's just like the business community is moving in that. I mean, we've been saying that for a decade, but it's true. And when you're looking at the conversation south of the border, like it's people on the right that are pushing for a price on carbon. And so I think that will be a very interesting part of the Conservative leadership race.
Okay, we're going to leave it there for now. At Issue, we'll be back with more of your questions right after this break.
It may not be the sexy topic, however, it's an issue that will impact us on numerous levels.
That question and hopefully an answer coming up on The National. Welcome back to At Issue, the holiday edition. We've been answering your questions about the upcoming year, or just any question you have, really. Chantal, Andrew, and Althea all back for one more round. Here's Teresa in Winnipeg.
During the lead up to the last election, there was little focus on the aging population and what that actually means to Canadians. Why do you think this was not addressed by any of the parties?
It's a good question. We talk about the aging population like every once in a while and sort of panic about it. Yeah, and then panic about it, and then we don't really talk about it during elections.
Because it's a long way away, or it seems like it, in terms of the peak of the aging of the population. It's one of those things that has huge implications in terms of the costs involved, which are in the trillions of dollars, in terms of the reduction in the number of people working age to pay all those costs. But we don't like in democracies to deal with things until we absolutely have to. The unfortunate thing is if we got started now in making the kinds of policy changes we need to raise national productivity, to have a higher growth rate so we can have the revenues to pay for all those costs in the future, we'd be okay. If we wait 10, 20, 30 years to deal with it, we're going to be in a crisis. And particularly at the provincial level, some of the projections for the provincial debt levels are frightening. We're talking about provinces potentially reneging on their debts. This is serious stuff.
Can I also suggest it's because we know that older people vote, and so we don't need to talk about things that affect them as much? Is that possible?
It's
like,
not
I know
just
that's
affecting
cynical,
them,
but
it's affecting
yes,
us.
Yeah, but it's hard for us to relate, right?
Yes, but no, not really. It's the aging of the population is not the biggest concern of older voters.
Well, not younger ones either, though.
No, but
it should be of concern to the youngest ones, because they're the ones paying it.
It's not the older voters. I'm fine, thank you. I'm headed for you know where, and you get
not
stuck,
right away.
You get stuck with the labor shortages.
Yeah.
The fact that there aren't enough taxpayers to make ends meet. All this, we are already there. So it's a major public policy issue, but I don't think it's a ballot box issue in the sense that here's my plan, vote for me.
Yeah, yeah.
But it should be.
My gut response is nobody has a really good answer. But I think that's actually unfair. We've seen the Liberals talk about their float a potential plan to address the aging population, which is to boost immigration significantly.
Yeah.
They know that's a vulnerability because immigration became a vulnerability. So the election campaign was a time to talk about things that fit like on a bumper sticker and to talk about things in a way that could be wedged. And the aging of the population is not a thing that you want to talk substantially about during a campaign, not just because it takes you 3 minutes to answer the question, but because it can be exploited by your opponents.
But fundamentally, the only way it's going to be addressed is higher economic growth. So it's a growth agenda. That ought to be something that can be explained to people, higher economic growth.
Yeah, okay. Last question. It's Sean McKinley and a couple others also asked this one.
Hi panel, my name is Sean McKinley. I'm an expat teacher in Beijing, China. And my question for you is, for the new minority government that the Liberals now have, what will be the first major thing, like electoral reform last time with their majority, that they had to completely get rid of out of their platform?
Thanks, Sean. Good to know people are watching us in China. Okay, the first thing that they have to dump because they just can't do it. Yeah.
Well, I'd be surprised to see pharmacare actually done. First of all, even the Liberal government doesn't seem to know what its own pharmacare plan is. Bill Morneau was talking about universal access to pharmacare. That's not actually what they ran on during the election campaign. So already there's a walk back. The premiers have said that they want to see more money in social transfers rather than pharmacare. So that probably is the big thing. But the other promises, like lofty promises, like 2 billion trees by 10 years or net zero by 2050, I would find that very surprising.
Oh, I think the trees can be done. I do. I read an article about it. I think the trees are possible.
In 4 years.
I actually think we know the answer to this because they've already jettisoned it, and that was the pledge to reduce the debt-to-GDP ratio each and every year. It's right there on the platform. This was in place of, in the last election, 2015, the platform was we're going to balance the budget in 3 years. That went out the window. Now they've already dumped the pledge to reduce the debt-to-GDP ratio. At some point, they're going to
just like 1 year though, and then it goes back up.
Yeah, but they were going to do it in every single year.
Yeah,
so they've already broken
right.
that promise. They're now talking about, well, we'll try and preserve the AAA credit rating, but I guarantee you, if push comes to shove, they'll be up there saying, well, we're not going to be held prisoner by international credit rating agencies, and that'll go out the window as well.
I don't think that they have something in their platform that they will want to kill in the way that they killed and buried electoral reform, which is something that they could have done. And they couldn't find an excuse not to do, so they had to kill it.
Yes, happily. They happily killed it.
I agree with Althea that pharmacare does not look promising, but I don't think you will see a day when the Prime Minister actually gives an interview to say, I'm not interested in this anymore, even if I was last week. Right. They're going to just let it simmer and probably get cold. It's been how many governments? And unless you have...
stretch goal.
Yes, and if you don't have provincial, to be fair to the Liberals, if you don't have provincial buy-in, it's not going to happen. They're not going to stand up one morning and say, we're taking this over and doing it from Ottawa. They can't afford it, and they can't really do it.
So they might have an easy out, as it turns out.
Well, you know, you just let it...
Just let it go away. But the trees are happening, I swear. I'm going to put $10 on it.
Rosie's going to be planting trees.
Maybe. Thanks, everyone. Keep sending us your questions anytime. We always want to hear from you. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast. Look for it on iTunes, any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/thenational.